Sometimes I feel like we're pointing out so much of the bad, you know? And I've always been advised to, anytime you're giving a critique, to sprinkle a little sugar on it. I completely get it.
It's almost impossible to talk about dating within the Western culture
and have any
because it is that bad. You know, and I was seeing beautiful women, and then you video call and you see a fat person comes up. BLK, that one has a lot of black beautiful women.
You've been on there.
Tinder, the last one that I've been on.
How is it different on your mental dating online versus in person?
I think the challenges that I found was one, Catfish. I used to listen to the GOAT, Kevin Samuel, the Andrew Tate. What I've experienced, I was leaning towards the red pill community a lot. But do you have any experience that almost led you to the point where you just hated men?
Really, as I said, is either I have too much of a high expectation of men, or I have a low expectation of them.
So it makes me question, are you saying that you have lost confidence in your husband also? Yeah,
I'm not anti-men, it's just that, I'm thinking to myself that...
But me just share it.
Yeah, I get it. You believe, so me hate, man. Just seeing the behind the scenes of how corrupt a person can be.
Yeah. Sometimes I just don't feel like I like you.
Emotional abuse is a such that I'm telling you, you'd rather take a punch in the face, because guess what? That will heal. But the scar that is left on your mind, it never goes away.
Yeah, you're not pretty out there. You're not pretty out there at all.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Unfiltered Heart Talks Podcast with the Dawkins.
Welcome, guys. We are delighted to have you here for another one. We are going to be having an interesting discussion today. And I don't think this one is a conversation. Do you think it's a conversation? It's more of a discussion. Because, of course, we have different views.
Yes, we do.
Slightly different views.
Yes.
We have some nuances where our views are concerned.
Indeed, we have different views, but they're not too far off.
And of course, this is a very, very controversial topic.
It's sticky.
It's a continuation of the last episode that we did.
The last episodes, yeah.
Right. And we continuously talk about these issues.
Yes.
And man, it's really tough. It's challenging.
It's challenging because when we're having these conversations, it's like walking on eggshells.
Yeah. One of the things that I realize with this conversation is that we have two different experiences. The experiences that you have dating are different from mine, of course.
True.
And on the other hand, I have been consuming a lot of content where dating within this culture is concerned, as well as looking at the things that are said on social media, the surveys that are being done with women. So there's a lot that I consume, and I am looking at that, as well as I said, my personal experiences that I've had and the different conversations that I've had with the women that I've been having conversations with throughout my time being here. So, of course, it's a touchy one.
Yes.
It's emotional sometimes.
Emotional? I wouldn't say emotional. I would say, I feel like sometimes I feel like we're pointing out so much of the bad, you know? And I've always been advised to, anytime you're giving a critique, to sprinkle a little sugar on it. So tell people what they're doing well, and then you tell them what they suck at.
Boy, which part I want to concern? I think
I completely get it.
It's almost impossible to talk about dating within the Western culture in a positive light. Because it is that bad.
It's that bad.
And of course the backlash will come
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, it's tough.
It's tough.
Not to mention dating apps, which
yes,
have basically taken over dating, where people are no longer meeting people within the social places, as we mentioned, but they are meeting them
on apps. Yes.
And the catfish. Have you ever been catfished before?
No. What's that?
Catfish is when, so let's say you swipe right on a guy for you, right? And you think that this person, it's done in many different ways, but one of the ways that I'm going to share with you, well, two. Okay. I'm going to share one for you and one for me. So one, you swipe on the guy. The guy says that he does this, he does that. He has pictures of how he looks and everything. But when you go to meet with this person, it can be
like puss in a bag.
It can be a situation where the person looks nothing like what they have on the photo.
Okay.
Or it might be a woman.
Yes. Yeah. No, I've never experienced that personally, thank God.
Yeah.
And I don't have much. I remember downloading a dating app one time during my college time, and I did not keep it very long. I just thought it was a waste of time. Throughout my life, every time I've dated with the intent of eventually getting married. Yeah. So dating apps didn't seem like it for me. People are just wanting a fling, and I'm not for that. So...
Can I talk about my experience?
Yeah, what's it been like for you?
All right. So, once upon a time, as I say in Jamaica, when I first came here, the first dating app that I went on was Tinder.
Oh God, it's the worst.
Man, make me tell you something.
Tinder is the worst.
Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something.
You got catfish?
I did, but I got catfish in the sense where I was seeing beautiful women, but when I do a video call or I see them in person, so, all right.
Night and day.
No shame. Listen. So you have the Coca-Cola bottle shape on the app.
Yes.
Look good. Looks like this person is hitting the gym hard. The curves are in all the right places. And then you do a video call and you see a fat person comes up, and you're saying like, why am I seeing, are you the same person that I saw, that I swipe on, that I've been having? I just think it's so wrong.
It is
wrong. And what I find out, and that happened to me quite a number of times, where I met people on the app, I met women on the app who posted older photos of themselves when they were in shape.
And younger photos?
Younger photos when they were in shape, and then they got out of shape, and
they're just going off of the younger pictures and hoping that they'll...
Yeah, and I'm like, why don't you just post recent pictures? Because, and I don't understand the mindset behind it. If the person doesn't like how you look currently, they're just not going to date you.
Right?
So it makes no sense hiding. It's deceptive. It's crazy. And then you talk about the morals, the values. Man, it's crazy.
Tinder is the worst, though.
Tinder is the worst. I've also tried one called, it's a church. That one was a Christian one. Upwards. I've tried Upwards, and I thought that Upwards was a little bit better than Tinder, being that it was for the Christian community. Man,
it was the same?
Talk about... They call them gold diggers. I'm just going with what they call them. There were many women who just wanted men to use and abuse, So it was horrible. And then BLK, that one has a lot of black beautiful women.
You've been on there. You've been all around.
But BLK... It's not necessarily as bad as Tinder, but it's not so much better either. The morals, the values of most of the women that I've met on it was never good.
Okay.
And
go ahead.
And also the last one that I've been on, Hinge. I think it's Hinge or the part was bad, so I've just with me. But Hinge was a very good one. I think that the women on Hinge are more intentional about dating and wanting to meet someone. And they're also very intellectual. You know, I think that
you didn't meet me, alright?
Of course. But I think that the people who might be on Hinge are people who probably have been on the other apps.
And they're tired
fed
of
up.
yeah.
So they say, you know what, let me just go over Hinge. And actually, I had some people in a car one night, and they were just talking about their friend who got married from dating app. And they mentioned Hinge, and I said, I've never heard of that one before, and I tried it, and it was good.
It was different.
It was different, you know, it was good.
So,
but I still wouldn't recommend dating
apps
for people. It's just not the best place to go to find a mate, you know? Yeah.
So what would you say the psychological, mental, emotional effects of online dating was for you? How was it different on your mental dating online versus in person?
I think the challenges that I found was, one, catfish. As I mentioned, women posted older pictures of themselves when they were in shape versus how they looked currently.
So how did that affect you mentally? And
of course, it was discouraging. And as well as the fact that a lot of women practically looking for the guy who will take them to the next restaurant. You know, so there was no sincerity as it relates to wanting to get to know someone. All they wanted to do was
date you for a meal. That's
pretty
crazy.
Pretty much date you for a meal.
That's wicked.
So there was a lot of psychological trauma from those things, of course, and the discouragement that comes from it. It makes you have this huge guard up, and you're almost perceiving everyone the same. You might see someone who is good, but your guard is so far up, you might never actually get to know them, because you might just think that
you're just assuming that they're like the others.
They are just like the others. So psychologically, it puts you in a place where you almost want to view everyone as the same. And of course, during conversations, you can find differences in women. But some people do fake those things too.
That's true.
Some people do fake the conversations until the meal
and fake the values and everything
until the meal is paid.
That's why time reveals all things. And I say, take your time.
You have never met anyone from a dating app before? Never gone out with anyone?
I have.
How was that?
It was fine. No guy was trying to catfish me. What I saw was what I got. They were just, you know, the two times that I've ever met anybody on a dating app, they were just straightforward. You know, we went out. It was actually a double date with one of my friends. Okay. So she met the other person, and I happened to just be there. And but other than that, it was what I saw was what I got, which is what I respect about most men.
Right.
They're not into this whole catfishing thing. But my experiences are so like, I don't have much experiences.
So the rusty beard.
That's you see the guy with holding the fish and the hook. You're gonna see him. He's coming in like with the hat, you know, everything with the same shades. Very much the same person.
We just forward as we are.
Yeah, you know, just forward just like you are.
Forward as we are.
But me, I don't have much experiences, but I can say that the two people that I've ever met on dating apps, they were straightforward. Yeah, they're very straightforward.
You know, talk about the red pill community as well. One experience, well, it's not even one. There were a myriad of things that led me to a place where I could relate so much to the ideology that the red pill community has. And much of it does come from dating app experiences, just talking to women, listening to their worldview as it relates to dating and family, the family structure, the roles of the family. It was just crazy. Some of the challenges that I found were challenges that, as we would have mentioned earlier, that comes from the women's rights movements and women wanting to find traditional men, but at the same time, they wanted to be able to have equal rights, being able to work the same amount, but keeping their money and having the guy spending his. I still don't understand that mindset. I don't know how that works, but just how unrealistic the expectations are that comes from the women that I've been meeting on the dating app. And I'm not saying that it's every woman, because of course,
just from your experience,
you're my wife,
yes,
and I never experienced.
And we never met that. We never met on a dating app.
Exactly. So a lot of the women that I've met on dating apps, you know, the unrealistic expectations from men, the bars are set so high to the point where almost no guy is able to reach those standards, except for the 1% of quote unquote
high value men.
You know, so those are some of the experiences that I had where, you know, it just made me relate so closely to the red pill community to the point where I was saying, yo, I remember one time I used to watch like Fresh and Fit podcasts as well. Of course, I used to listen to the GOAT, Kevin Samuel, the Andrew Tate, you know, the GOAT again. The things they were saying, you could clearly see those things explicitly from women, at least the ones that I was interacting with, as well as you would hear it coming from their mouths. So you know that this is not something that you're just seeing on social media. You are also experiencing it firsthand.
In real life.
In real life. You know, so it brings you to a place where you're like, damn.
Is anybody real out here? Does anyone want a genuine relationship?
Like,
does anyone want to build together?
Yeah, like, remember days when my daddy and me and say, boy, you're not pretty out there. You're not pretty out there at all. It's not pretty out there. You know, because it's almost like every woman you meet is the same North American mindset that is so brainwashed against men, and men are this, and the toxic masculinity, and yeah, it's just crazy. And then talk about the psychological terms that were just being thrown around
for everybody,
for everyone.
And you know, honestly, I had to come to the realization that, and I think it was just this morning that I came to the realization that, let me find my note. So this is a note I wrote to myself this morning. I was just having a deep thought. I was wondering, why do I feel the way I feel sometimes? Because I try to always analyze what I'm feeling or what I've felt in the past to see how I can hurdle those feelings or understand them so I can be better. So this is what I wrote. I have come to realize within myself that I have no confidence in men. This, I believe, stems from my observation from a youth up of how feeble men can be because of women.
And that is true.
I've seen and I've heard of men who have been unfaithful to duty and to family. A man's unfaithfulness to his relationship is most times explained in two ways. She, my partner, she caused me to ... because of ... Or she, the person he swayed with, she swayed me. Where those two reasons fail, polygamy justification becomes the argument.
Yeah.
Right? So I have seen and heard of men all my life explaining away and blaming away their choices, and it is somehow acceptable in society. Are women the reason for all this confusion and pain? Or are my expectations of men too low or too high? I try to understand the things that puzzle me in hopes that it will no longer puzzle me. How do I build confidence in men? Or should I have no confidence at all, as the Bible says? Or should I just submit to the fact that people will fall and fail at some point? I loathe pain. I loathe disappointment. How do I overcome? Or should I just take things as they come? That thought came to me at one point when I was thinking to myself, we shared in our love story how I was just about, let's just end it now, because I don't want to be hurt. I don't want to be hurt. And when I look over my life, it's almost like it's either, as I said, it's either I have too much of a high expectation of men, or I have a low expectation of them. Because in my mind, I'm always thinking of the possibility of being hurt. You know,
that's trauma.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, because I've never experienced any great trauma other than my past relationship.
Right.
But I'm like, okay, could it be, you know, my father did a girl back in the day. Could it be that I'm thinking to myself, I wouldn't want anybody to do that to me, or not have me as their one and only? Could it have stemmed from all the way back then? You know, I don't know how that just came up a while ago, and we may never use it, but I felt like I had to share that.
Right. The question I have, though, because based on what you read, you said you have no confidence in men. It's number one.
Confidence in men.
Right. Does that include your husband? That's number one. Number two, the thing I would say is maybe you're looking to have confidence in the wrong places. It's number two. And the reason I say that is, for me as a man, my expectation of a woman is only for my wife. It's for nobody else.
Okay.
So I can't put expectations in the other women that are out there, because the reason why I'm with you is because I have identified within myself that we share the same values. It simply tells me that since we share the same values, we have the same morals, and we have decided to join together because of those said shared views and values, then that also tells me as a man that the only expectation I should have of a woman is that of my wife, right? So if a woman fails her marriage, her husband, I have nothing to do with that. She didn't fail me. So it doesn't bring my trust in my wife
any lower
or less. I trust my wife and I have confidence in her because I know her, right? So I cannot lose faith in women because of what one woman has done to me. So it makes me question, are you saying that you have lost confidence in your husband also?
I don't want this to be a part of the conversation.
I want it to be a part.
You really do? It's true what you said. A lot of women's views of men right across the world, but especially in the West, has been tainted. And that's very true, what you were saying.
Right.
So that's what you were saying.
Yeah. And as we made mention, it's on both sides. And on one hand, you have men who just want to cheat and have multiple women, you know, and as you would mention, they call it polygamy. They want to justify polygamous relationship. But as we both know, that biblical polygamy versus what we see now, it's two different things. Polygamy was done in a way where
I don't even think it was called polygamy.
It was a polygamous relationship.
Okay.
Because number one, these men had the financial resources to maintain, sustain, and manage multiple wives. The women they selected to be a part of that family were single women, and those women were not betrothed to any other man, meaning that they were not married. Once the women were married, and the married men in biblical times had sexual encounters with them, such as in Daniel's case, it was considered to be
Daniel. We don't know if Daniel
having sex. Sorry, not Daniel. David, such as David. Case, it was considered to be adultery. So polygamy is done in a way where it's one man who has all the financial resources, who is in a position to manage and maintain having multiple wives, and these women are single women, unmarried women that he takes and make his wives. You know, what we see today is men literally just lying, deceiving, and sleeping around with both the married, the unmarried, and the single, you know. So it's not the same. And there is no biblical justification for that. I was listening to, I think it was a court hearing of a pastor who was taken to court by the deacon of his church. And what happened, as some people that say, what had happened was, what happened was the deacon and his wife were going through their marital problems. Okay.
Yes.
I don't
have anything to say. I feel like I made an ass of myself by even sharing.
What? You know, I've been able to share it.
But I feel like
we're not going to share.
I feel like we have different views on certain things. And it's not like I'm justifying stuff, but I can understand where people are coming from. I'm not talking about the 50-50 thing or the, you know, make him spending money. I don't agree with any of that stuff. But I understand how the tainting of, I don't know how unfiltered I can be. I'll say, I feel like it's hard to be vulnerable and share your innermost thoughts. And then when you've spilled that, and then you're wondering how people are going to feel about it, it just like makes you want to almost cry because sometimes like it shouldn't even just care. I know, but I'm just, it's just, I'm not talking about people. I'm talking about how you may think about what I say. Yeah, I'm not anti-men. It's just that, you know, I'm thinking to myself that.
But me just share it.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, me just share what I feel about it.
Because you believe, so me hate, man.
Well, I don't believe that you do, right? So they were having marital problems, and he brought his wife to the pastor for counseling. The pastor said that he's going to counsel them separately.
Makes sense.
So the deacon agreed. It's good. He said while being at home, he realized that his wife was coming home looking a little bit happier. So he said to himself, yeah, this is good.
It's going good, yeah.
It's going good. Until Tour come to bump now. Until Mr. Man went to church, and there was the secretary who gave him, so his wife went to visit her parents in another state. So he said, okay, because she's coming home, she's happy, she's doing better, maybe the time away will also help. Boom. Bad boy now say, everything are going good, pastor do a good job. So he went to church. The secretary gave him a receipt. And the receipt was for a hotel booking in the same place where his wife went. And the secretary told him that the pastor had given the receipt to her with his name on it. Jesus! So that's how he found out that the pastor was having an affair with his wife. The secretary said that when she got the receipt, she saw the hotel booking and knew that the man's name who is on it has not gone along with his wife to visit her family. And since it was the pastor who gave it to her, she knew that something was up. But hear the story now. The reason why the secretary tell the man say pastor was having an affair with his wife was because pastor was also having an affair with her. So she allowed him. You know, and these are the things that are often practiced by married men. And they try to justify it as it being polygamous. And it's something that is practiced in the West. biblical polygamy is a thing. Mm-hmm. It's biblical. There is no biblical evidence to argue against it. Mm-hmm. People can share their opinion on what they think. And what I will say is that if you were living in a culture where polygamous was explicitly practiced, then you would grow up as someone practicing polygamy.
Just like in the East, some places in the East, if you should go tell them, oh yeah, let's go out and let's sleep together one night and never talk to each other ever again and not know each other's first name, they'd be like, are you stupid? That's like the weirdest thing. Yeah. But for them, I have 10 wives,
and everybody is happy.
And everybody's happy.
And they take care of each other.
Yeah.
But I want to ask you, do you have any experience that almost led you to the point where you just hated men? Did that ever happen to you?
Oh, gosh. Have I ever had an experience that led me to almost hate men?
Yes. I want to share the story and make the people hear.
Well.
You ready?
Well, my past marriage. Yes, it not hate men, but I was very cautious. Mm-hmm. Even of you, I was super cautious.
Why for that?
I was very cautious. I didn't hate men, but I was very cautious. What I hated was seeing men in suits. I started hating seeing men in suits because this guy had this thing where he wore suits all the time, everywhere, because he wanted to not be racially profiled by police officers. But I often told him,
wear a suit then.
No, I often told him, thugs wear suits. What sets you apart is your character.
Conduct.
And your conduct.
Yes.
So I'm like, you can wear all the suits you want. They can sniff you out from a mile. So, but after a while, he was still crooked and wearing the suit. So I associated crooked with suits. So every time I saw a guy in a suit, I thought more than likely if he's an American, he's crooked, and worse if he's a theologian. Wow. So that was like a traumatic experience for me, but I never hated men. I remember one time I was so traumatized from the experience that I would see a new couple. You could tell when couples are new because they're all up in each other's faces, all touching each other's hand. And I'd be like, girl, run him. I would just be so...
No, you can't say pum pum. Well, a lot of people don't know. He just wants sex.
He just wants sex. So I would be like that. And mommy would have to tell me, hey, not everybody's the same.
Yeah, that's true.
And I remember when she was talking to me about you, I'm like, no, I don't want him. He's probably just the same. And I knew you weren't, but I just did not want to put myself in a situation. Trauma, a lot of trauma. So what led me to almost hate men, that experience. And it was not just one. It wasn't just a suit. It was just seeing the behind the scenes of how corrupt a person can be.
Yeah.
After a while, somebody plays nice and then the mask slips a little bit and it slips a little bit more until they stop wearing their mask when they get home. So I went through a lot of hell.
Yeah.
And it made me think that, my God, if somebody could lie on you, gaslight you, purposely try to do stuff to get you jealous.
Yeah.
When you don't react, they get upset at you, or in physical. Like my dad was even scared to smack me as a child.
Wow.
So imagine somebody putting their hands on you. It was crazy. But that wasn't the worst part. It was the mental games. It got so bad that I was like, man, I'd rather for him to hit me.
Wow.
Because the mind games were just so crazy. It was just crazy. And when you can get to the point, and I'm not condoning any form of abuse, worse physical, but emotional abuse is of such that I'm telling you, you'd rather take a punch in the face, because guess what? That will heal. But the scar that is left on your mind, it never goes away.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So that experience and it's a lot to even detail in a conversation. That almost led me to the point where I loathed men.
Wow.
Yes.
The psychological terms, we made mention of it earlier, but we didn't really touch into it. Mm-hmm. The psychological terms that are just loosely being thrown around, some people actually experience them in their relationship. I was in a relationship that, honestly, they said women are delusional, but boy, I made it delusional.
Right.
You know, and they said love is blind, but love no blind. Love is not blind. People find themselves in a place where they're in love with an individual so much to the point where they themselves can become delusional.
Is it the person or the idea of what they can bring to your life?
It's the person themselves, you know. Call it desperation, some people being desperate for love, or call it just let's say that, you know, a lot of people find themselves in love, but sometimes you fall in love with the wrong people, you know, people who seek to do more harm to you, tear you down, like your situation. And what happened is that a lot of times we see the red flags. We see red flag, white flag, pink flag, every flag. And we still say, boy,
you're trying to delude yourself into thinking that it's a green flag. It's not.
Say, yeah. You know, so I had experiences like, talk about the psychological term, the gaslighting, you know. Narcissistic. And mind you, there are people who actually experience these psychological mental abuse. But there are individuals like the case that I was in, where the person who was actually the gaslighter, the person who was actually the manipulator, was saying, hey, you are manipulating me. And let me tell you my experience, why I was called a manipulator. A lot of women come to this culture and they quickly buy into the Western ideology. They want the male best friend. Fire!
While still having you as the man.
They want the male best friend while still having their romantic partner of the opposite sex. You know, they want to dress provocatively. And you know what's crazy? A lot of people never dress provocatively until they come to this country.
True. Me never bought ears until me reach a foreign.
Suzanne. Me
never wear shorts and spaghetti strap until me reach a foreign.
There's a lot of things that people wouldn't wear in their own culture because culturally it's just, you get side eyes.
Yeah. But it's like here, your inhibition is just, it just goes through the door. It's like as soon as you pass.
It's normalized.
It's normalized.
Like even, I remember the first time I went to Canada. I saw a little girl coming home from school. High school, you know, probably high school or kidnapped.
Can't be kindergarten.
Hopefully not. But I saw a little girl coming home from school and she was, half her bottom cheeks was outside the shorts. I was like, what, is this normal? You know, in Jamaica, your frack off there weirder than your toenail.
I don't need to brush your knee, they say too.
All when it a brush your brush knee, all when it a touch your ankle, they must say your dress is too short. You know? But here, I went to Canada and students, they were dressing very provocatively.
Nakedness is normalized.
You know, nakedness is normalized in this culture. And so you have a lot of women, even if they're from a different culture, they come to America and they just want to be a part of the culture. They want to fit in. They want to get accepted. Everything. So here, me manipulative now. I am with this young lady and she wanted to dress provocatively while being with me.
No, sir.
Not under my dead body.
Not in my cabinet.
Not in my cabinet. You understand? So I said, no.
Okay.
I said to her, the day you said, listen, there's one thing about me. I always say one thing about me, and that's true. I always put down my values, my morals that I want in my relationship. So when I'm going to date a woman, intentionally dating her with the hopes of getting married, these are some things that I like. Here.
You spell them out.
Right. And she said to me, say, these are some things that I like. Me look on our list, me say, all right, I can work with this. If I cannot work with it, I cannot work with it.
You're caught.
I willfully decline, right? Some women will want to be with a guy just because of the image. It's all about the image. And that's what I got from that young lady. It was just about the image. So she accepted my criteria. And then as soon as she felt comfortable, she wanted to go to the clubs with friends, dressing provocatively. So I said, no. So when I placed my foot down and said, listen, you have to either choose the short clothes, the provocative clothes, the going to club with the friends and the male best friend.
And the male best
and
friend.
move forward with that. But I'm not going to be a part of it. A lot of times, in reality, women, let me not say women because I don't want to generalize. Most women don't like to be told by their man not to do certain things. As the statement is always been said, and we hear it and pop the balloon and find love. Let women be women.
Yeah.
Women are not capable. Some women are not capable to take constructive criticism and use it as a building block. Use it as something that they can learn from, grow from, develop. And I realized with her that for me saying to her that, listen, you're in a relationship. When you decided to come into this relationship with me, these were some things that
were already outlined.
Yeah, I already outlined them. You said you were going to put them behind you. So nobody come tell me, say, you want to come and be with me and expect that I'm going to be the guy who is going to sit down and say, yeah, you can go to the club with your friends. Yeah, you can wear your provocative things. So I was seen as being controlling or manipulative, you know. And that is how in relationships, these words are just loosely thrown around sometimes. And you talk about the gaslighting. Hey,
you go through it.
You see, if you get a text, see it's a boom and you get the text and you read the text. And she will be there, you know, texting somebody else, you know. But I'm the delusional still. Me take 150.
God have mercy upon us.
I took one for the team.
Oh my God.
You know? And if the text come in from your phone and you look on it, and even when it's your best friend text you, and you see her a text and a laugh and a smile and you say, what are you talking about? Who are you texting? You know? And mind you, you know, talk about the best friends. Half of these best friends you don't know, you know. You know? And these are the stories that you're often told. Oh, I don't like him. I wouldn't even date him. And best believe that as the relationship done,
the best friend again.
And the best friend, and she gone on vacation. You know, so go back to these ideologies where women want to see men as being insecure because you value yourself so much to say to a woman, no, I'm not going to allow you to dress provocatively. I am not.
I do not appreciate it, and I hope that you value yourself enough to not do that.
Yeah, let's not say allow, but
because that sounds a little bit controlling. But my God, you should have values enough to know. Yeah. I don't like that, and I would hope that you value yourself enough not to like that stuff either.
And the reality is, you can. So it's not to say that I'm not going to allow you to dress provocatively. I'm just not going to put up with it.
Exactly.
That's what I need to say.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit by and watch you dressing provocatively and you just think
just
that
let it slide.
It's okay.
Something normal.
Or if I don't accept it, I'm being insecure.
And you know the funny thing is, women have this thing where, and I've seen it on social media a lot of women joke about it. When you're dating, hot like a 10 fire sign, right? It's like they're literally baiting you in with the looks. Yeah. And you see, as soon as you're in a relationship, it toned down.
Yeah.
And then it toned down, and then it toned down, and then it toned down until you're like, yo, is this my grandma?
Yeah.
Is this my grandma?
I don't.
And I'm just like, yeah. It should be the other way around. Not that you should dress like woman. You must be modestly dressed, right? And still look sexy. Like Arlette, I'm pop the balloon. My God. Me feel say some of the man them go there for just to see her. But I'm finish now.
Yeah.
I'm finish now.
Right, go on.
Arlette looks modest, but she looks very attractive. Yes, you can imagine when a woman like that go in and she start dress sexy for your man.
Yeah.
You can still pull a man in without having your ass cheeks out. Right? And the way you're dressing to get him, don't start dress like old woman when you get him.
You should start dress sexier.
That's right.
So if you used to wear 2-piece when you did a date, now you feel wear 1-piece.
1-piece.
Shazam!
Understand me?
Or 0-piece.
Yeah, or no piece at all.
No piece.
So of course I support that. But that was one experience that I had. When I tell you, say, boy, when I left the relationship there, me almost say, Father God, and my best friend usually joke about this thing. So say, yo, hey, God couldn't make we a different species, like the elf woman them we find in the animes, where we couldn't go talk to apart from the earth woman. Yeah.
Oh my God.
You know, because you see these things and mind you, these are things that good men are facing. Because if you're out there, well, let me just say what I'm saying in English so the people them can understand. If you are out there just gallivanting and having fun and doing hookups, you really don't care.
Yeah.
It's whatever.
But
good men who are actually looking for genuine, deep connections, these are the things that we face on a day-to-day basis. And it's not just with one woman or two, it's with many different women. So it makes dating difficult. And of course, with what I've experienced, I was leaning towards the red pill community a lot. But I'm going to say something very important. It came to a point, and thank God for my Christian values, it came to a point where I had to realize, thinking about women like you, that I've dated, and of course, in Jamaica, I've dated good, strong, solid women, So thinking about those things, I came to a point where I said to myself that, you know what, I cannot allow what one woman has done to me to bring me to a point where I completely give up.
That's right.
On the myriads of women who are here.
Yes.
The truth is, good women are here. Are they a lot? There are not a lot of them. Me find one. So me don't know how much left, but boy, God bless on a soul. if you guys have not found yourself a good woman yet, I'll be praying. But good women exist. Yeah. And oftentimes, sometimes people go through these negative experiences that so negatively impact your life psychologically. And, I remember they used to use this thing on Fresh and Fit. Emotional damage. But man, I tell you, emotionally damaged by women, And we talk about the time when you had called me down to do that podcast. You wanted to do that podcast interview, and I told you I wasn't in a good mental space because I was literally going through it.
Yeah.
So men go through them, something at all. Yeah. But the man them were out the road, I do them thing, and I have Francis, Anne-Marie, and Sharon. These men are not necessarily going through these kind of things because they're just playing the game. But good men who want genuine love, we go through these things,
And you know what I think is happening? I think that the pain is being perpetuated by the few good that are in the system and then the few bad that are in the system. So the good end up with the bad, the good have a bad experience or they stay traumatized, or the good end up with the bad and then the good changes to one of the bad. It's like a recruiting kind of thing.
That can happen.
It's like a recruiting kind of system. So you either end up bad or you end up traumatized.
I want you to say it in such a way where it can be explicitly understood.
Okay.
My understanding.
I know what you
I don't know
it just came to my mind a while, yeah.
But I want you to say it in such a way where people can really identify with it more.
Okay, like a personal experience.
I want
like you rephrase it.
I want you to say it like the intellect you are.
Okay.
Right.
So I believe what is happening in society where dating is concerned is a perpetuation of the pain and trauma. So you have people who are getting into relationships and they have the best intentions. And then you have people who are getting into relationships, they're catfishing, they're just pretending, they're manipulative, and they get into those same relationships. And what happens in those relationships, you have an empath and a narcissist, for example. The empath ends up with a narcissist, and the narcissist plays mind games on this person until they become hardened, depending on how long you've been under that, crisis, that crazy situation. Depending on how long you've been under that situation, it can either change you for the worst, or you can stay traumatized, or it can change you for the better. So I feel like this toxicity within relationships is perpetuated because, one, people are not taking the time. Two, when you enter into these relationships, you allow them to so affect you deeply that you, instead of growing from them, which very few people choose to do, you continue the cycle. So guess what? That girl that you may have dated may have been a victim of somebody that was really tough. And this person said, I'm just like, I'm cold now.
Can't catch catch a shot.
Yo, I'm cold now. So she's like militant cold, and she's just living her life now. Or the person that I dated before is probably like, nah, I'm cold now. Instead of stopping the cycle, instead of continuing the cycle, stop it. In our situation, I went through my shakes, I went through my withdrawals, I went through my hell. I remember at one point I was scared to go outside. It was really bad.
Wow.
And I could have joined that pink pill community. I don't know if there's one, right?
Yeah, you have that community where women hate men.
Yeah, I could have joined the ranks of women that team up together and just talk about men and say we don't need men and we're just going to do this by ourselves. I could have been a part of that community with the hell I went through. But I decided, no, I have had dating experiences, where these guys were just normal and genuine and they were real.
Right.
So this one person is not going to change my mind towards the myriad of good men that are actually out there. Yeah, and I took one for the team too. Like when I say I went through hell, that's an understatement. I went through it.
Yeah.
Almost lost my mind.
Yeah. It's crazy. And that is why I keep saying that this idea that men are so bad always being perpetuated by numerous amounts of women, that men are so toxic and the toxic masculinity, and men are so bad, and women saying that they don't need men, and men saying that women are at the bottom of the barrel, especially North American women. But I mean, know about them, man. They were saying done with women still, because if you are finished with women, then where will you turn? That's a question that I don't even want an answer to. Right?
Computers.
Yeah, some people will go to machines, some people will go to the dolls.
Oh my God, let's not go there.
Yeah, some people married to Dolly. Well, maybe they're having a very peaceful life.
She said no.
No arguments, nothing to worry about. You just wait, you have a feed your Dolly.
No, don't even entertain that bit. No. We don't want to hear that. We don't want to hear that. Fire!
But these ideologies being thrown around by men and women, as I said, it is creating such a rift between the two species. And I believe that it's because we have failed to recognize that men and women are very similar. Again, when it comes to relationship, you have good men, you have good women, you have bad women, and you have bad men, you know. So, yeah, we are not so much different. And people just need to recognize that. And when you come to the table, just be sincere. Be as sincere as you possibly can. State your requirements. Everybody have expectations. Let me know, well, not me, because me married and gone at Fair Market, not for sale. But let the guy know what your expectations are. And if he can handle those expectations and you can handle his, then just form a relationship and be genuine and recognize that every relationship have their problems.
Every one of them.
Every single relationship. You know, some morning, you go wake up. Sometimes me wake up and I not even feel like me love God. That is the truth.
That's deep.
So when it says nothing shall be able to separate us from the love of God. You notice it never says our love for God. It says God's love for us. So it is not our love that keeps us closely connected to God. It is God's love that keeps us closely connected to Him, because sometimes in reality, I may put on a preaching voice now, your love fluctuates between hot and cold when it comes to God. So if you can feel that way, even when it comes to your own creator, imagine how you feel about your partner sometimes.
Yeah.
You feel that about your children sometimes. You feel that about your mother, your father, your brothers, you know, everybody.
And that's why love is not a feeling. It is a principle. It's a principle. So we were reading something this morning, and in James was saying that faith without works is dead. A very popular scripture. And you can't say you love someone without your actions showing. Right. Because feelings are very fleeting. So if I love you, there are certain things that are going to be done that are going to spell out literally and physically that I love you.
Right.
So if we're going based on feelings, you don't love anybody. Because today you could I could be so in love with you. I could be so enamored by you. Tomorrow I could be so annoyed. Tomorrow I hate you. It's not feelings. It's a principle. Love is a principle.
And it has to be that way, because when we have our disagreements, I don't stop being your husband. You don't stop being my wife.
It's momentary.
It's, you know, it's a continuous thing. But does our love fluctuate between hot and cold sometimes? And it's not necessarily... You mentioned this one important fact.
Yeah, it's not a feeling. Feelings fluctuate, but principles don't.
Yeah, it's not even love.
Are rooted and grounded.
I think what it is that sometimes I just don't feel like I like you as much as I do in other times. And you don't feel like you like me as much you do in other times. And that's one of the things that I think fluctuates between husband and wives.
Feelings.
The feelings of liking, you know. But if you don't like the person,
mercy.
Because you can love somebody and not like them, as you have said before. Yes. You know, so if you don't like the person, that's where the problem comes in. But in reality, both men and women have to realize that relationship is not easy. It's a full-time job. And if you have a full-time job, it's harder than that job. It's the hardest job that you can find, and it's being married to someone.
Yes.
It's an amazing thing. It's an amazing family structure. And I think that it does people well when they are married. I just think research statistics shows that married people tend to live longer than single people, especially for men. And I think with that, because some people are going to say
that women are happier single, or women live longer when they're single, or, you know. But
I think the principle behind that is that, one, because you know that I've worked in crime and violence before. And I've dealt firsthand with individuals who are involved in crime and violence. And one of the things that I realized was that when it came down to Dans who wanted to change their path, those Dans wanted to change their path because of a newborn baby. So I think the idea behind that or the principle behind it might be
longer.
That the reason why men tend to live longer being married is because when the family responsibility is added, it gives you a purpose.
Oh, wow.
Without that purpose, it's just me, myself, and I.
You're wild.
You're just living your life. So what I found in my work experience was that most of the guys who didn't have a family, didn't have children,
they were more reckless.
They were stone cold killers. Ooh. They didn't care. There was and the coldest guys were the guys who were in their early teens, like the 13, 14 years old guys, because those guys had no form of responsibility whatsoever.
Wow.
And you realize that even the Dans, sometimes I met Dans who were very weary of some of these younger volatile guys who were coming up, because these guys were just cold. They had no responsibility, nothing to live for.
Yes.
It was just chitty chitty bang bang. You want somebody dead, they're going to get the job done. But the older guys, like some of the Dans, they wanted to live. So I think that's the principle behind it.
That's interesting. Purpose really gives you meaning.
Men especially.
Especially men. Yeah. A man without purpose is like a ruthless, cold-hearted...
Think about the military.
The ones who serve...
You know that song they always sing? How that song they go again?
I love my wife.
Yeah, that one. It's a psychological conditioning of the mind. And somebody shared this with me before, that when you're going overseas, you're encouraged to forget about your family.
Oh my gosh.
But one of the reasons behind that, I'm not sure how true this is. If there's any military personnel, hats off to you guys.
Thank you for your service.
Joining you guys soon. But
it's okay. I'll send this out in the right time.
Yeah. But somebody told me that one of the reasons why they also do that, it's because of the myriad of partners who cheat on their spouses who are serving in the military overseas. So they're always encouraged, hey, you forget about wife, and forget about it.
I think another reason too is when you have a soldier that is so devoted to the mission that he has nothing else, he or she has nothing else back home to live for. They're literally going in like a killing machine. Yeah. Just like Spartacus. Spartacus. Remember watching Spartacus and how Dominus had him working and doing, matches. And then he realized that his wife was his reason for fighting so hard. And what he did? He ensured that he sent for the wife, but he ensured that he killed her. And that broke the man's spirit. But I think if you have... I don't know. It sounds contradictory. It sounds a little contradictory. So let me clear up. It can go both ways. If you have something to fight for, you can fight harder. If you have nothing to fight for, you will also fight harder. Because those guys that you said, they're the most volatile, they're the most cold-hearted. Yeah, they have nothing to fight for.
It's not necessarily that it's contradictory, but
it goes both ways.
Yeah. And even when you talk about 300, my favorite movie, when Leonardo was leaving his wife, he didn't even kiss her. Because he just knew that he wasn't coming back. And that he fought that hard because he knew he had his wife and his child to protect.
Yes.
And he was willing to die on the battlefield. But that says a whole lot too, because it goes to show you that when a man truly loves a woman, he's willing to lay down his life for her. And that's a conversation that we are definitely going to have.
Yes.
Where submission is concerned.
Biblical submission, yeah.
Who should submit? Because some man feels a boy.
Nah, boy.
Well, why feel about things still? But some men feel
surrender.
Yeah, some men feel like they believe that when it comes to submission, it's just the women.
Yeah, so we have to definitely delve into that.
And it's a trigger word for a lot of women.
Oh yeah.
When it comes to the whole idea of women submission. It's a very important topic. It's going to be a very interesting conversation.
Yes, stay tuned for that one.
Of course, I've done my exegetical studies and I'm going to dig this thing deep. It's not going to be a biblical discussion, of course, but we have to put it in context.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
So should men submit?
Question.
You know, is it only the women who are supposed to submit? And why do so many women have a problem or have a challenge with submission?
And what does it look like for a man to submit?
And should you even submit to a man who is not aligned with God?
Obviously.
God have mercy upon us.
No, you shouldn't. But guys, we are so happy that...
Wait. Me have a bonfire. You see, if you tell us that she have a male best friend...
Oh, yes.
If she tell us that she have a male best friend, why for that? Don't even go there.
And if he tells you that he has a female as a best friend...
Run.
Something.
Yeah, something. Male and females are not capable of having a platonic friendship.
And I know people will disagree because
it doesn't exist.
Some people disagree, but...
I don't care. Listen, majority makes the rule.
Majority.
Right? So if you know of one situation, my mother and father, your mother and father, God bless their soul. All right? But I'm talking about the myriads of people out there.
Especially in this Western dating
Especially in this Western dating world. You see, if and it's not, it wouldn't even be considered friend, because if I grew up with a young lady from a young age who was in my household, basically live like brothers and sisters, and I would view her psychologically as a sibling, you know, so that doesn't count. So don't even share anything regarding your male best friend who you have grown with from you were a tender age in the same household. You shouldn't even be considering him or her as a
best friend. That's family by that time.
But be wary of the best friends, you know, on both sides. There's no such thing as male and female best friends. In a romantic relationship, if you did have a best friend before, the best friend there is your best friend outside of your marriage. But your main best friend is your spouse.
So you still encourage the best friend thing though?
No, I'm talking about having... Like me, may have my best friend, Bridget and Ricky Slick. That's completely different, you know. And I don't think women do well with female best friends. I don't know why, but I need to ask you. And stay tuned on the next episode. But I'm just saying that, you know, when you are in a marital relationship, your best friend should be your spouse.
Yeah.
You know, that's your number one best friend. Of course, you're going to have your best friend outside of your spouse.
But it should not be case, of the
a male,
person of the opposite sex.
Not an opposite sex, of course. And in your case, as I said, I don't know how the female side works when where best friends are concerned. But, you know, I'll pray for you guys.
Oh my God.
But I'm just saying, never ignore the red flags, especially in this culture. Take it for what it is. If she's dressing and let me tell you, you see, if I have a son who is ready for dating in this culture, there is one single thing I'm going to tell him.
What are you going to tell him, sir?
Virgin, when you go out there, ask to see her Instagram. Because
that's something big on Pop the Balloon.
Because yes, and do you realize
guys,
how provocative some of these girls' Instagrams
are? We're gonna start doing reaction videos on Pop the Balloon, because we will be watching these things and having a whole dialogue on exactly what's going on, who should be together, who popped, why did they pop, guys, look forward to that. We're definitely gonna be doing some reaction live. I think live would be even better.
Live will be
yes.
But definitely, guys, you have to never ignore the red flags.
No.
Don't be delusional. And again, it's not just with women. A lot of men out there, they are delusional too. And there are a lot of women delusional, but you know. But I'm just saying that never ignore the red flags.
Don't ignore them.
The red flags
and
are
don't
there
ignore the pink flags either.
Yeah, and the best friend business, why for that? Bonfire upon it. You understand? if you are a man who thinks that your woman is capable of having a male as her best friend, and it's all good and dandy shandy,
kudos to you, man.
Kudos to you. May I pray for you. I'm seriously praying for you.
Peace. But
it just doesn't exist. What else more I want to say? May I talk a lot now, but what else I want to say?
We just want to wrap it up at this point.
Yeah, we want to wrap it up. But I just want to send a message to the community where this thing is concerned.
Well, we're dating in the Western culture.
Yeah. Well, send a message.
Yeah, we send the message. Send and deliver. Already. Well, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in today and listening to us. If you like our content, we are available on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Show us some love there. And also, leave a comment in the comment section. What do you think about this conversation? Let us know in the comments below.
All right. See you guys on the next one. Stay tuned.
Unfiltered Heart Talks.